Hello and welcome dear students. So in today's session we will discuss the questions which came in the recent INI CET exams, and most of these questions are recall based. So some of the options may not be actually what they were present in the exams. So there may be some difference. So but whatever we have collected, so let's start discussing the questions of microbiology. So this time the most of the questions they were taken, the pattern it is based on the CBME pattern, and most of the questions they are based on the syndrome based diagnostic approach or the infection prevention control practices, and also including the questions from the ongoing pandemic, that is COVID-19. So these are the most important areas from where you may get the questions similarly in the future exams also. So please keep it in mind. So let's start with the questions. So the first question is, after clinical manifestation, which one has highest mortality? Okay, and the options are influenza virus. So flu, we know that usually it is most of the infections they are asymptomatic or mild symptomatic and not much of the mortality. And the Nipah virus, of course, a disease, viral infection with a very high mortality, and similar is the case with the Ebola virus. So mortality may go as high as up to 70 to 80%. And the option D, rabies virus. So here usually if there is a symptomatic infection, almost all the cases they will go for fatal infection. So for question number 1, the best appropriate answer is option D, that is rabies virus. So the answer is D, rabies virus. Moving on to the next question, which protein is present in HPV vaccine? So we know that HPV vaccines which are used to prevent the infection and also the cervical cancers in humans. So the HPV vaccines are given usually in the young females. Okay, so the protein, which protein is present in HPV vaccines? So we know that when the viral replication occurs, there are many early proteins and the late proteins. And the HPV vaccine, it mainly consists of the L1 protein. What is this L1 protein? So this is a late protein, and it is usually, this protein is responsible for coding most of the major capsid proteins. L2 also codes, but that is for minor capsid proteins. So mainly L1 protein which is important for coding most of the important or major capsid proteins, and this is included in the HPV vaccine. So we know to prevent the infection and also the cervical cancer, these are given to the females 9 to 14 years or up to 25 years. So lesser the age, if we give the vaccine in early age, then the immune response will be better, and less doses, that is only 2 doses will be required if it is given below 14 years of age, as compared to after that when the 3 doses will be required and immune response may not be that better. So it contains the L1 protein coding for the major capsid proteins. So question number 2 answer is A. Moving on to the next question, question number 3. Which of the following can cause or conditions which cause the lesions on glans penis? Okay, so this is based on a sexually transmitted infection. So these may present either with discharge or the genital lesions. So we should know the important causes which are associated with the genital discharge, like Neisseria gonorrhoeae or chlamydia and other infections. And similarly, the infections which can produce the genital lesions, including the herpes simplex virus, where we know the painful vesicles can be seen. Similarly, in Haemophilus ducreyi, causing the chancroid or soft chancre. So here also we see the painful lesions on the genitalia, and the lymphogranuloma venereum caused by Chlamydia trachomatis. So here also genital lesions can be seen, which are usually painless, and syphilis causing hard chancre or syphilitic chancre cause the lesions in the genitalia, and which is again usually a painless chancre. Okay, so all can produce lesions on genitalia. Apart from this, other infections can also cause the lesions on genitalia, like duodenovenosus caused by Klebsiella granulomatous. So please keep these important points regarding the sexually transmitted infections, and they may or may not be, usually they are associated with the inguinal lymphadenopathy also. So here all can cause the genital lesions, herpes simplex virus, then Haemophilus ducreyi causing the chancroid or soft chancre, then the Chlamydia trachomatis causing lymphogranuloma venereum, and heart chancre caused by Treponema pallidum. Okay, so all can present with the genital lesions. Moving on to the next question, question number 4, true regarding chancroid. So just now we have discussed that chancroid or soft sore, it is caused by Haemophilus ducreyi, and usually it presents with painful ulcer and which bleeds on touch also. And when we do a direct examination from the exudate from the base of the lesion, okay, so when we take the sample from the specimen from the lesion in the direct examination, we will see typically the bacilli are arranged end to end in a pattern resembling what is known as school of fish or the railroad track appearance or tram track appearance. Okay, so all these are different names given to the direct examination findings for the chancroid. Okay, groove sign. So this is a sign which is seen in infection with lymphogranuloma venereum caused by Chlamydia trachomatis. So usually we see groove, it is a groove or indentation caused by the swelling of the lymph node in the inguinal region, where we see the swelling and it is separated by inguinal ligament. So here we see the swollen, large swollen lymph nodes, the inguinal lymph node and femoral lymph node, and separated by inguinal ligament, classically giving the groove sign which is seen in the LGV. Okay, so this is seen in LGV, not in chancroid. Okay, so for question number 4, answer is D. It is seen in the LGV, not in chancroid. Rest all options are correct. Now moving on to the next question, question number 5, match the following. So in the column A, they have provided us Balamuthia, Balantidium coli, Trichomonas vaginalis, Toxoplasma gondii, all protozoal parasites, and in column B, Flagella, Cilia, Pseudopodia, and no particular locomotive organ. So the organelle for locomotion. Okay, so this is a question from basic parasitology, and this we have discussed in the regular class. We have discussed that the single cellular or protozoal parasites, these can be classified as SAC. What is SAC? Sarcomastigophora. Then A for Apicomplexa, and C stands for Celiophora. Okay, and the only important parasite causing human infection in Celiophora, where the organelle for locomotion it is Balantidium coli. Okay, now Sarcomastigophora, it is again divided into two groups, Sarcodina, that is comprising of amoebae which are motile by Pseudopodia. So amoebae, they may be the pathogenic amoebae like Entamoeba histolytica, or the free living amoebae like Naegleria fowleri, or Acanthamoeba culbertsoni, or the Balamuthia mandrillaris. Okay, so all these are examples of amoebae. So these, the Sarcomastigophora, it is comprising of Sarcodina or amoebae motile by Pseudopodia, and mestig means flagella. So Mastigophora is a group comprising of flagellates. So here also we have a group of intestinal and other flagellates like the Giardia, then Trichomonas vaginalis, and the other flagellates like Leishmania or Trypanosoma. And Apicomplexa, they don't have a specific organelle for locomotion, and it mainly includes the important coccidian parasites like the CCI, important group for causing diarrhea in immunocompromised patients, that is CCI. What does CCI stands for? This is Cryptospora, Cyclospora, then Isospora, then the malaria and similar parasite, that is Plasmodium and Babesia, and the other parasites like Toxoplasma and Sarcocystis. Okay, so this is the classification for protozoal parasites, and we now know the organelle for locomotion. So now we can easily answer this question, just a basic question. So Balamuthia, we know that this is a amoeba, and the organelle for locomotion, it will be the Pseudopodia. So for option 1, the choice is Pseudopodia or C. For option 2, Balantidium coli, only important parasite in the ciliate group. So that is, it is having the organelle for locomotion as cilia. So 2 is B. Then 3, Trichomonas vaginalis, just now we discussed that it is a flagellate. So the organelle is for locomotion, it is flagella. So 3 is A, and Toxoplasma gondii, no particular organelle. So that is 4th is D. Okay, so this is the answer for this question. Moving on to the next question, question number 6. Most common cause of lung injury. Now there is a difference in opinion. Some people are telling that the question was most common cause of lung injury in COVID-19 patient, whereas some people are saying that the question was the most common finding in COVID-19. Okay, so whatever it is, the pathology, it starts because of the endothelial injury. Okay, there is endothelial injury and which cause the destruction in the alveoli. There is impairment of the gases exchange, and finally these alveoli, they are filled with the exudates, and if it progress, it may lead to the lung damage because of diffuse alveolar damage, and which may lead to ARDS. Okay, so if it is the question is asking for the lung injury, then it is diffuse alveolar damage. But if it is the most common finding, that is the initial point where the everything starts, so it is definitely endothelial injury for COVID-19. Okay, so accordingly we have to give answer. The most common finding, it is the endothelial injury, and if the question is asking for the most common cause of lung injury which is seen in COVID-19, then it is because of the alveolar damage, that is diffuse alveolar damage, which can lead to the ARDS. Okay, so we have to choose accordingly from the A and C option. Moving on to the next question, question number 7. Which of the following is useful in reducing the mortality in COVID-19 patients? Okay, so as far as the COVID-19 management is considered, so we know many drugs are there, antiviral drugs, anti-inflammatory drugs, and other drugs which are useful for the symptomatic management, like the antipyretic drugs, other anti-inflammatory drugs, and the drugs for managing the coagulation disorders. Okay, so all these are used in the management of COVID-19 infection depending on the stage of infection, whether it is the early viral stage or the later inflammatory stage. Accordingly we have to use the various drugs. Now as far as the reduction in mortality is considered, many drugs are used in the clinical trials, but as far as the randomized clinical trial is considered, the most important WHO Solidarity trial, so most of these drugs, they are not found to significantly reduce the mortality in COVID-19 patients. The important drug which is found to reduce the mortality significantly, it includes steroids. So it is definitely associated with reduction in mortality in the COVID-19 patients. Rest all drugs including the remdesivir or hydroxychloroquine, these are not found to be significantly associated with significant reduction in the mortality. Okay, so of all these drugs, the best appropriate answer is steroids, although all these drugs are used to reduce for symptomatic management, but as far as the evidence based is considered, so it is the steroids which definitely they are helpful in reducing the mortality associated with the management or the reduction of the mortality in COVID-19 patients. So for question number 7, answer is C. Moving on to the next question, question number 8. When will you sanitize your hands? Okay, now again a very important aspect, that is infection prevention and control. So if there is no infection, rest all things will not follow. Okay, so this is the preventive step, it is the most important aspect, and for that the most important topic is hand hygiene. So we know that hand hygiene, it can be performed either by soap and water based hand wash, or we can use the hand rubs, okay, in the sanitizers. So with these two broad methods we can perform hand hygiene, and it depends whether the hands are visibly soiled or these are not visibly soiled. If the hands are visibly soiled, we need to wash our hands with soap and water. If these are not visibly soiled, we can just sanitize using the hand rubs, okay. So accordingly we have to choose among the hand wash and the rubs. But so we definitely have to sanitize or perform the hand hygiene when the hands are visibly soiled. So option C is correct. For rest all other options, there we should always keep in mind, because WHO has performed 5 important moments when we have to ensure that hand hygiene is performed. So please keep in mind the 5 moments of WHO's 5 moments of hand hygiene. So you can remember it. So one is associated with patient, then 2 associated with patient, 2 associated with the procedure, and 1 with the surrounding. So first is before touching a patient, second after touching patient, third is before performing a septic procedure, so these are procedure related, and fourth is after the procedure, whenever there is a risk of exposure. After procedure, if there is a risk of exposure, and the 5th moment or the last moment is after touching the patient's surroundings. So at least at these times we have to ensure regarding the hand hygiene, okay. So before examining the patient, yes. After examining the patient, yes. This is also correct. Hands are visibly soiled, we have to sanitize our hands. After touching the patient's surroundings, yes. So in all of these we have to perform the hand hygiene. So all are correct, and please keep in mind the 5 moments of hand hygiene. Moving on to the next question. A 6-year-old child, so pediatric case with history of fever, febrile illness, presenting with painful lesions on palm and soles, sore throat for 2 days, and white oropharyngeal deposits surrounded by a red areola. Most likely the lesion is, okay. So the classical febrile illness in children, and the lesions are seen in the palm and soles and in the oral cavity, okay. So the most likely lesion is, so this is a typical presentation of enteroviral, that is the Coxsackie A virus illness, which usually cause febrile illness associated with lesions on hands, foot, mouth, inside the oral cavity, okay. So and especially if it is herpangina, it involves the posterior structures of the oropharynx. So that is typically seen in herpangina, where we see the white lesions surrounded by a red base, okay. So that is typically seen in herpangina. Otherwise in the oral cavity, all other aphthous ulcers or oral enanthems or Koplik spots can be seen, but all these are usually seen in the anterior part, and Koplik spots especially in the buccal mucosa associated with the measles infection, okay. So for this question the answer is A, where we see the typical lesion what is described here. the typical white oropharyngeal deposits which may be painful also. So here we can see the white lesions surrounded by the red inflamed base, and it is basically involving the posterior oropharyngeal structure. So this is typically seen in the Coxsackie A virus infection, which along with herpes angina can also cause hand-foot mouth disease, or it is an important cause of the aseptic meningitis or respiratory infections. So all these can be seen in infections associated with Coxsackie A virus. Okay, so these are all the important questions. So please, I wish you all the good luck for your future exams, and please keep in mind the important areas. Now the pattern, they are including more and more the questions of the CBME pattern. So application based, syndrome based diagnostic approach, infection prevention control, it is a very important aspect, and the list is topped by COVID-19. Okay, starting from the agent, management and rest everything. So please keep it in mind, and I wish all of you good luck, all the best. Thank you.